pierces through the dark, paranormal enthusiast and best friends, Farah and Courtney venture deep into the woods, armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure.
Farah, are you sure this is a good idea?
Sure, I'm sure. We're paranormal investigators. We're not scared of any ghosts.
What was that?
Probably some animals. Oh my God. My flashlight is going out.
Following the chilling sounds, the two stumble upon an abandoned and haunted building, its dark silhouette looming over them.
Look, there it is. The abandoned radio station. It's supposed to be mad haunted.
Let's be careful. We don't know what's inside.
Wow, look at this place.
A long growl is heard coming from behind the girls. They turn around slowly, and to their surprise, a zombie is standing in front of them dressed to the nines, wearing a 70s bell-bottom hot pink and purple leisure suit.
Who are you pasty-looking females, and what the heck are you doing in here?
Who are you calling pasty? Nice suit. Did you raid Barry Manilow's wardrobe, or did John Travolta have a yard sale?
Sorry about that. We didn't mean any harm. We're just curious about this place.
Curious, huh? Well, come with me. I got something to show you.
And as they wander deeper into the building, they uncover vintage studio equipment covered in dust and decay.
Farah, you were looking for a new place to set up your podcast, right?
And this is it.
Whoa there, sweet cheeks.
No, don't worry. We'll make it worth your while. We love the strange and unexplained phenomena, true crime, macabre, and the sinister. And hey, you'd be a great touch to the show. Maybe be an announcer for us as well.
That does sound stellar. I'm in.
A few minutes later, 12 seconds later, 3 weeks later, many months later.
Okay, we're rolling. Welcome to Studio Sinister Podcast.
Where we explore stories that haunt us all.
And then we'll go make a fresh kill to celebrate.
Dawn.
Just kidding.
Join Farah, Courtney, and Dawn the zombie on the 1st, 10th, and 20th of every month for some rad, chilling stories.
And if you piss your pants, that's your problem.
Come embrace the haunt. See you soon, Sinister Seekers.
Hey, cabin crew and fellow truth seekers. Welcome to the Conversation Cabin podcast, and I'm your daring host, Farah. Tonight, I'm going to take you on a spine-chilling expedition into the mysterious realms of the unknown. Tonight, we'll embark on a that will transport us back to the eerie night of August 21st, 1955, deep in the heart of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Prepare to have your imagination ignited as we unravel the perplexing tale of the Sutton family and their unforgettable encounter with otherworldly visitors. Get ready to delve into the enigmatic world of aliens as we explore the unexplained and question the very fabric of reality. This is a story that will leave you questioning what lies beyond the stars and forever etch the Hopkinsville, Kentucky alien encounter into history. Welcome to an episode that will challenge your perception of the universe and ignite your curiosity. Welcome to the uncharted territories of silver beans and shotgun defenses, the Sutton family alien encounter. Stay tuned, cabin crew. Transport you back to the beboppin' 50s where poodle skirts and saddle shoes were hot and Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley and the Comets were on the Billboard Top 5. We land on a dirt road between two fields of corn in the heartland of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, which was rich in agriculture and the industrial. Men and women worked in the coal mines and farmed tobacco. As we walk a little further, we come upon an old mailbox, a little worn, scratched, with the name Sutton painted on the side. We see a farmhouse with an inviting porch encompassed by flowers that someone has put so much love and care in, gardens beaming and full of vegetables, their leaves glistening with droplets of water from their fresh morning bath. And as the doors of the house swing open, we see a family made up of Elmer, or Lucky Sutton, the head of the family, Vera Sutton, Elmer's wife, John or Charlie Sutton, Elmer's brother, and Aline, John's wife, and a few other adults along with some children. It was August 21st, 1955, and the Suttons had no running water, no TV or phone, no books, so they weren't very familiar with outer space radio or TV shows to make their imagination wander. And that is one piece of evidence to keep to the side as we get into this story. Around 7 p.m., one of the men ventured outside the house to fetch a bucket of water. To his astonishment, he witnessed what appeared to be a flying saucer gliding above the treetops before descending and touching down in a field, roughly a city block's distance behind the house. There was no explosion, just a faint hissing noise. Intrigued yet cautious, the observer collected the bucket of water and promptly returned to the safety of the house. Shortly thereafter, word spread through the group that some oddly looking figures with oversized heads and elongated arms were steadily approaching the house. These individuals were described as having remarkably large eyes and outstretched hands. Their limbs, naturally elongated and slender, dragged and swung in a peculiar manner as they approached. Their eyes, a piercing shade of yellow, seemed vacant and distant, barely acknowledging the presence of the group. The weight of their bulbous heads caused them to bobble unsteadily. They were small, about 3 to 4 feet tall, with ghoulish greenish skin and ears that seemed to reach to the heavens. Later, the group would call them goblins or little men, but these creatures were no fairy tale. Equipped with their firearms, Sutton, armed with a shotgun, and Billy Taylor, his friend, wielded a .22 caliber target pistol. The men prepared themselves. As the entity drew closer to the house, reaching a mere 20 feet in proximity, the men were filled with a natural sense of fear and trepidation. Reacting instinctively, they discharged their firearms. The impact of the bullets and buckshot striking their mark created a distant noise similar to the sound of rattling objects in a bucket. As time passed, one of the creatures approached the window and pressed its face against the glass. Reacting swiftly, the shotgun was discharged again directly through the window, causing the face to vanish instantaneously. Determined to assess the outcome, the men made the collective decision to venture outside and determine if their shot had found its mark. Leading the way, Taylor emerged first through the front door, only to be confronted by an alarming sight. From the low roof position just above the door, an enormous hand descended and seized him forcefully by the hair. He pulled away quickly, and the men ran out the door. In close proximity, one of the beings perched in a nearby tree, while another positioned himself atop the house. The resounding blast from Sutton's shotgun managed to strike one of the figures, causing him to disappear in the darkness. Pandemonium ensued as a pair of goblins emerged, darting frantically across the roof, through the trees, around the house's corners, and swiftly vanishing. Amidst the chaos, one of the creatures was dislodged from the roof, yet instead of plunging downwards, it appeared to gracefully descend, almost floating towards a fence situated approximately 40 feet away. Seizing the opportunity, Lucky took aim once more and managed to strike the creature. However, rather than succumbing to the hit, it executed a nimble backflip and hastily fled, utilizing arm movements as if it were swimming through the air. Taylor, in an effort to defend against the remaining intruders, reportedly unleashed a barrage of gunfire upon them, yet with little success. The skirmish persisted for an extended duration, with neither side gaining a clear advantage. Sensing an opportunity, the occupants of the besieged house quickly seized their chance for escape. They hastily jumped into their vehicles and sped off to Hopkinsville in search of assistance. Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray Taylor swung open the door of the local police department, panicked, sweating, out of breath, screaming. And they recounted the events that unfolded at the farmhouse. Responding to their accounts, authorities promptly dispatched a sizable amount of officers to conduct an investigation at the scene. Subsequent examination revealed the presence of shell casings and bullet-inflicted damage on the farmhouse. Notably, no indications of alcohol consumption were discovered, as confirmed by the matriarch of the Sutton family, who adamantly asserted that liquor was strictly prohibited within her household. Following the assurance that the danger had passed, the family made an attempt to snuggle in and rest for the remainder of the night. According to the Sutton matriarch, around 3 a.m, she personally witnessed one of the beings emitting an eerie luminosity positioned outside her bedroom window. The creature's claw hand was visibly placed on the window screen as if it maintained a silent presence. In response to this alarming sight, she urgently called out to her family members, who promptly reacted by gathering their firearms again and resuming the battle. Once the incident gained publicity through radio stations and newspapers, a multitude of inquisitive visitors flocked to the Suttons' property. Unfortunately, many of these individuals scornfully dismissed the Suttons as ignorant or fraudulent. Even the presence of no trespassing signs failed to dissuade them. In an attempt to manage the situation, the family resorted to charging admission fees, 50 cents to explore the grounds, $1 for acquiring information, and $10 for capturing photographs. However, skeptics promptly labeled them as opportunistic fantasizers following this endeavor. The Kelly story began to take on a life of its own, spreading across the globe. The count of these alleged little green men, commonly referred to as Kentucky goblins, multiplied, reaching a dozen or more. A few years down the line, the accounts of the little green men merged with a tale from an eastern Kentucky woman involving a flying saucer and a 6-foot-tall green figure. This incident fueled the propagation of the myth surrounding the existence of the little green men. Since the fateful night in August 1955, the Kelly Hopkinsville Goblins case has captivated ufologists. Despite swift dismissals from the majority as a mere publicity stunt, neither the Suttons nor Billy Ray Taylor reaped any benefits from the tale. On the contrary, the constant stream of curious individuals seeking to witness the site of the incident led the Sutton family to the point of exhaustion, eventually forcing them to relocate. Even after years had passed, no one wavered in their accounts and no one confessed to orchestrating an elaborate hoax. To all those involved, the Sutton cabin remained a destination visited by extraterrestrial beings from another world. It was not uncommon for the Air Force to investigate UFO sightings during that period. The Kelly Hopkinsville Goblins case did not receive attention until 1957, when Major John Albert interviewed the Suttons, who steadfastly maintained their original narrative and conducted a preliminary examination of the available facts. Eventually, he concluded that the goblins were not of extraterrestrial origin, and that the Suttons were not engaged in a fabricated scheme. In 1956, Isabel Davis, a renowned ufologist, conducted an extensive investigation into the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter, resulting in a meticulously compiled 200-page report. After careful examination, she dismissed all alternative explanations, ultimately affirming the occurrence as a genuine encounter with extraterrestrial beings. Davis expressed her conviction that the individuals she interviewed from the family were sincere and of sound mind. To this day, her report stands as the most comprehensive analysis of the events that transpired on that remarkable night. According to ufologist Renaud Leglet, there is a possibility that the observed phenomenon could be attributed to a misidentification of a pair of great horned owls. Leglet points out that these nocturnal creatures possess characteristics such as silent flight, yellow eyes, and a tendency to fiercely protect their nest, which could lead to confusion and mistaken identity. The first indication against the story arose when the police arrived at the scene, which surprisingly lacked any signs of extraterrestrial presence. Moreover, official reports revealed that only a minimal number of weapons were discharged during the alleged 4-hour shootout. Despite subsequent narrations depicting a thrilling intergalactic firefight, it turned out that only one neighbor claimed to have heard gunshots emanating from the house, and at that time mistakenly confused them for a few firecrackers. It remains possible that the story was merely embellished. It cannot be completely dismissed as false. It is conceivable that the invaders did not engage as many aliens as the accounts suggest. However, this explanation fails to account for the presence of the aliens themselves and the sighting of a flying saucer in the sky. Interestingly, in the earliest versions of the story, the object observed that night was not a spaceship, but rather a shooting star. Now, after all of this information, let me ask you, the listeners, do you believe the Suttons had a terrifying encounter of the third kind? Or was it a case of misidentification? Let me tell you that there have been other reports of Kentucky goblins. Oh yes, the quote goblin sightings received significant attention from both local and national media, leading to a surge of imitators in the surrounding area. A group of teenagers from Evansville claimed to have witnessed 10 of these creatures on the athletic field of Lincoln High School, allegedly when the youngsters began pelting the creatures with rocks. The beings swiftly disappeared into the darkness. Earlier, Darwin Johnson had reported being grabbed and pulled underwater by a lizard man while swimming in the Ohio River near Dogtown on August 14th, 1955. But this incident bore striking similarities to a scene from the movie Creature from the Black Lagoon, which had been released a year prior. Subsequent to the sightings of the small green beings in Hopkinsville, Johnson modified his account, asserting that they and their companions had also witnessed a flying saucer just before going swimming. Interestingly, this detail had not been mentioned in previous interviews, but Johnson now claims that their attacker was one of the same creatures who had instilled fear in the families during their visit to the Bluegrass State in Hopkinsville. The Hopkinsville, Kentucky alien story has played a significant role in strengthening people's beliefs in extraterrestrial life and has become a cherished staple within the UFO community. This extraordinary account, which unfolded on the night of August 21st, 1955, has captivated the imagination of countless individuals and continues to be discussed and analyzed to this day. What makes the Hopkinsville alien story particularly compelling is the credibility attributed to the witness involved. The family members were described as honest, reliable individuals, which lent credence to their account. Their story was extensively covered by both local and national media, propelling it into the public consciousness and sparking widespread fascination. As news of the encounter spread, it ignited a surge of interest in the existence of extraterrestrial life. This case became a turning point for many individuals, solidifying their beliefs in the reality of UFOs and aliens. The extraordinary nature of the events and the apparent sincerity of the witnesses resonated deeply with those who were already inclined to believe in the existence of intelligent beings beyond our planet. In conclusion, this alien story has left an indelible mark on the belief systems of many, even me, reinforcing my conviction in the existence of aliens. Within the UFO community, it holds a special place as a cherished and influential account, serving as a reminder of the enigmatic and captivating nature of the UFO phenomenon. A little side note, Hopkinsville did host an annual festival dedicated to the famous encounter known as the Kelly Hopkinsville Goblin Encounter. The event, officially named the Kelly Little Green Men Days, attracts locals and visitors alike to celebrate and commemorate the extraordinary incident that took place in 1955. Although, when I visited their website, kellyky.com, it looks as if it might not have taken place since COVID. But keep an eye on it, listeners. They may start it back up again. Thanks for joining us on this mind-bending journey to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, where truth and imagination collided under the stars. Tonight, we explored the extraordinary encounter that left a small town forever changed. From strange lights to eerie creatures, it's a tale that continues to defy explanation, leaving us to ponder the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. Remember, in the vast expanse of the universe, the line between fact and fiction can blur, and the truth can sometimes be stranger than we ever dared to imagine. But until next time, keep your eyes on the sky and your mind open to the wonders that await. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and embrace the unknown. Safe travels, fellow seekers of truth. Thanks for joining me, Cabin Crew, for tonight's episode of the Conversation Cabin podcast. I hope you loved it. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2. I hope you enjoyed diving into the realm of the strange and unusual with me. Now remember, we're here every Thursday bringing you more mind-bending content. You can find us on all major streaming platforms, so be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. I want to take a moment to express my gratitude for your support. Each episode of the Conversation Cabin podcast requires extensive research and writing, and your engagement means the world to me. If you have a spare moment, we would greatly appreciate if you could leave a rating or a review. Your feedback helps us reach new listeners and continue producing quality content for you. Don't forget, sharing is caring. Sharing our podcasts and episodes with your friends, family, and fellow enthusiasts is the best way to show your support. So feel free to spread the word and let others join in on the conversation. And remember, if you have a spine-chilling experience or encounter of your own that you'd like to share on the show, I'd love to hear from you. Email me at theconversationcabin@gmail.com, and who knows, your story might make its way into a future episode. Stay connected with us on Instagram and TikTok at The Conversation Cabin for behind-the-scenes content updates and sneak peeks into upcoming episodes. Once again, thank you for tuning in and being a part of our curious community. Remember to keep your mind open and your sense of wonder alive. Until next time, Cabin Crew, I'm Farah signing off from the Conversation Cabin podcast. Explore your strange. Hey, cabin crew. Welcome to another episode of the Conversation Cabin podcast. I'm your fearless host, Farah, and along beside me today for our first episode together is my daughter, Sierra, who is our new co-host. If you missed the live announcement, say hello.
Hello.
So coming into this, what are your first thoughts?
I'm really excited. It's an interesting topic, which I personally have been interested in for a while. I'm excited to talk about it, especially with my mom.
Awesome. I'm so excited too. So the topic that we are going to cover today, Sierra was the one that brought it to my attention months ago. We're going to do a deep dive into the intriguing and often chilling waters of Lake Lanier. Nestled in the heart of Georgia, Lake Lanier is a man-made reservoir that has been a popular destination for water enthusiasts since its creation in the 1950s. But beneath its serene surface and picturesque surroundings lies a history as deep and complex as the lake itself.
Yep. From its inception to the present day, Lake Lanier has been shrouded in mystery and folklore. It's not just a body of water, it's a reservoir of stories, some factual, some legendary, that have shaped the local culture and captured the imagination of people far and wide.
And in this episode, we'll be exploring these stories from the historical facts surrounding the lake's creation to the eerie legends that have sprung up over time. We'll delve into tales of ghostly apparitions, unexplained phenomena, and even rumors of an underwater ghost town lurking beneath the lake's surface.
Our aim is not just to entertain, but to shed light on this fascinating body of water and its place in Georgia's history. It has so much crazy history.
There is so much that I found on this place, and it's just a wonder why it's haunted. So whether you're a history buff, a lover of legends, or simply someone who enjoys a good mystery, we invite you to join us on this journey beneath the surface of Lake Lanier.
So sit back, relax, and let us guide you through the history and legends of Lake Lanier. Welcome to the Conversation Cabin podcast.
This is the history and legends of Lake Lanier. Exploring the mysteries beneath the surface starts now.
Loftus, a family says something crashed into their backyard, prompting them to call 911, saying they saw creatures walking around.
Jeffrey Dunn.
And tomorrow, a man named Ted Bundy was going to die in Florida's electric chair.
Shut it down. This is ridiculous, folks. They do exist, but they don't exist. They keep telling us they don't exist, but they
nowhere
block
near the
every
top of the
opportunity
issues that are
for
facing
us to
Black
get them.
America. And the reason that you are bringing them up in this room is because it is an attempt to make the election all about race.
And you know the subject. And you should. And you should do that also, because just knowing people who are on red limit. I want to look inside the country's criminal crisis specifically. Enough.
Those 28 girls hospitalized after playing with Ouija boards at their school in Colombia.
The Conversation Cabin podcast. All right. Let's get started. Sierra, tell us how you came to learn about the story of Lake Lanier.
I have a friend that you know of, Sydney, who lives in Atlanta, and she had been there before. I have my page on TikTok, and a lot of stuff came up about Lake Lanier, and it wasn't about just Lake Lanier. How did it start? Hold on, let me rethink. I would go on my TikTok and then I follow some paranormal sites. And I remember something came out about the deadliest or haunted places or lakes. I can't remember exactly what it was. But a lot of people in the comments were saying, how come Lake Lanier is not on here? It's the most haunted of all. And many comments on and on of people just kept saying the same thing of, I don't know why it's not covered. I don't know why people never really talk about it. And it's something that is very widely known by the people that live there, that never to go there. It's never talked about.
When I started researching it, yeah, I was surprised how many other bodies of water are haunted, and they're always in YouTube channels and mysteries and haunted places. But this place wasn't. And I think it has the most deaths of any lake. But let me just give everybody a rundown of this place. Lake Lanier is 37,000 acres, 58 square miles. The deepest point is at 158 feet. And what we're going to uncover today is, why is it haunted? Why does it have so many ghost stories coming out of this place? So many accidents and tragedies. It has even claimed a whole town. What do you want to add to that, Sierra?
The conspiracy in my mind, this is it attracts 10 million visitors annually and also brings in about $5 billion to North Georgia. As you see, as we go on with something with such a terrible history and all these stories and the wide range of things that have happened in and under this lake, you can see why maybe they won't want to dig up the past. And especially because it brings in so much money to the state. So I also feel like that could definitely be a reason. Nobody wants to dig up old bones.
It is a place where the tourist industry there is crazy for as many deaths that has been there. And we're talking over 700 deaths in this place, which is, that's nuts. It was an expansive body of water, which was initiated in the 50s when the United States Congress passed the Rivers and Harbors Act. It authorized the construction of the dam for purposes of flood control, hydroelectric power, and navigation. It was also named after poet Sidney Lanier and spans across 5 counties. So it's Hall County, Forsyth, Dawson, Gwinnett, and Lumpkin. Lake Lanier covers an impressive area of approximately 150 square miles. And what happened there was crushing. There was a town called Oscarville. 250 families were uprooted from the creation of this lake. 15 businesses, 20 cemeteries. Before it was built, it was Forsyth County, which was a wealthy county, mostly white dominated. And then Oscarville is where a lot of the African American community settled at. They brought farming culture, cotton, vegetables. But I thought it was really important to bring this up because the things that I did see on Lake Lanier, much wasn't said about the African American history.
Yes, exactly. The research that I did as well, I'm the type of person that looks into the comments of things. And a lot of people are saying that the Black history is being completely overshadowed. A lot of people are wondering why that's not brought up. And it needs to be. That is a huge part of that area, of that lake. It was built over 3 towns that I saw myself: Oscarville, Storesville, and Absalom, which also included tons of graveyards there as well. Oscarville was thriving when it was there. It was full of carpenters, it was full of farmers, blacksmiths, and that was until they got ran out by white Forsyth County residents. It was a very sad history. There was an Oprah show that was dedicated to it long in the 80s or 90s, probably 90s. It was a lot of people that were ancestors of the people that had been there. One lady had said, I remember they weren't run out. Yes, exactly. They were burning down churches, schools. Who would want to stay around that? So, yes, they were completely run out. Then something really awful happened.
We're about to get into that, especially today when a lot of racial things are starting to come up more. It's always been here in this country, but I find it really shitty that everyone talks about Lake Lanier like the white predominant part of Lake Lanier. Not only are they trying to wipe out what happened, they're trying to even change the name of it. That's what I thought was really shitty. Do know this, the Cherokee Nation inhabited this land until the 1830s, when the infamous Trail of Tears forced them to relocate, paving the way for European settlers. A lady named Ms. Russell, who is a historian from the area, said, "A haunting is sometimes defined as something that is difficult to ignore or forget, something that is poignant and evocative. The real haunting in this story is how history has made it impossible to ignore what was done to the land in North Georgia. Once a land of wild rivers, North Georgia is now broken with dams and human-made bodies of water that change the ecosystem. Once a land that belonged to the indigenous people, it is now buried under the water, making recovering of lost culture impossible." So what do you feel about that statement?
100%. As we go on, there's multiple things that you could say, oh, that's why. This is the things that people are scared of. But honestly, there is so much history in this one place. It hurts your heart and it's sad to hear. I definitely think she's right.
I thought this was an important story to bring up, and I think Sierra came across the same story as I did, so we'll both touch on it. Back in September of 1912, there was a 18-year-old white girl named May Crow. It's really sad that you have to say white girl, black something, because it's got so diverse, when really it should be any act of crime against a woman, a man. It's bad. It doesn't matter what the skin color. But back to the story. May Crow was found injured and assaulted in the woods less than a mile away from her home. She was deceased. Even though there were no witnesses, no evidence, a 24-year-old black man, Rob Edwards, was arrested and taken to jail for the crime. And even though there were no witnesses, no evidence, a 24-year-old black man named Rob Edwards, right, was arrested and taken to jail for the crime. Go ahead and pick up, Sierra. Tell a little bit about the story too.
Edwards was then taken from the county jail by a mob of white residents, brutally beaten with crowbars, shot repeatedly, and dragged to the town square where his body was lynched. Additionally, Edwards' wife, Jane Daniel, their neighbor, Ed Collins, Jane's cousin, Oscar Daniel, and Oscar Daniel's cousin, Ernest Knox, were arrested. Knox and Oscar Daniel, both, by the way, were teens, were convicted by all white juries before being hung in front of about 5,000 spectators. In the aftermath of those brutal killings, residents were forced out of their homes, which is most likely why they wanted to cover up that sad history with the flooding of the land and creating of a lake.
My first question is, how in the world do you get arrested for just being a neighbor of an alleged suspect? I think Oscar Daniel and then her cousin Ernest Knox, but that just goes to show how bad racism was. Just because they're black and live next door, or they're related and they all live in the same house, then you must have had something to do with it.
It was Forsyth County was a predominantly white, rich, wealthy people, and then you have these successful black community here that is thriving off of what they're doing for their community. They're already trying to force them out for that land, just like the Native Americans were before that. They find this white woman, which, I mean, back then, if something happened to a white woman back then, the thing was to go to a black community and start pointing fingers. It was awful. And it's so sad. Rob Edwards was the person that was accused without witnesses or evidence. He was taken away, and that was more of an excuse for them. And started happening, burning of everything. They wanted that land.
Right. The burning of everything was after Jane, Ernest Knox, Oscar Daniel were arrested. They were convicted by an all-white jury and then also drug out in front of everyone and hung. Our justice system was really shitty back then. There was no justice system. The Black community were hiding away in the churches, which then the white people decided to burn the churches down, burn the Black-owned business down. Let's accuse this guy. It's a very tragic story. It definitely needs to be brought to light more. It's good for you to know everything that happened up until now, because why wouldn't it be haunted?
Like you said earlier, the history is haunting. I would haunt it.
Did you know that there's a whole racetrack underneath that lake?
No, I didn't see that anywhere.
Yes, it's crazy. There's a racetrack under this lake. A couple other things that I came up with. These white people that went on a crusade of burning all these Black businesses and Black churches, they were called the Night Riders. That was the group of them that went out and did these horrible things. And then back to some things underneath that lake, there are trees that are 60 feet tall.
Yeah, I was looking up on YouTube underwater dives because a lot of people dive there to record it and do things like that. These massive trees and grave markers, old cemetery things. You can just see street signs, cars. Honestly, I would be too scared to dive. I would even going on the lake, just being near that body of water with so much stuff under it. Look at some of the YouTube videos. It's actually pretty scary.
This is a whole town. So you're right. It's very scary. Some of the videos that I have watched was about droughts. I guess whenever there's times that it doesn't rain much, the water goes lower, and that's when you have a lot of accidents. People are driving their boats really fast at night, and guess what? They end up hitting a damn tree. I don't think I could personally go in that lake, even swimming, just knowing what I know now. There was a diver named Buck Buchanan. He's an experienced diver. When he goes underwater, being that there's no visibility at all when you go diving under this water too, he has felt body part. He would reach out, feel like an arm or a leg, and then it wouldn't move. When I was younger, I didn't care so much about creepy things, but now that I'm older, maybe it is. That's the reason why I am. When you jump from somewhere high and it makes you go underwater almost to the bottom. I used to be so freaking scared to jump off a high dive and go in the lake where I used to live. You just wonder what you're going to see down there.
I don't go in it. If I can't see where my feet are, even if I can't see my hand right below me, I'm not going in. About what you said about Buck, I was looking up comments on TikTok of the videos of it, and a lot of people were saying that they feel grab their legs. They feel like they are being pulled down. A mother, I had mentioned on the episode before when we just briefly talked about it, but a mother saw her hand, the force of her child being pulled down in the water, a 4-year-old. She was like, no, you don't understand. I saw the force. His leg was being yanked. You can't easily mistake that. You don't go down and back with your leg. She saw the force of him being dragged under. Luckily, she grabbed him. She said it was like somebody was pulling him under.
That's terrifying. You know what that reminds me of? The part in Friday the 13th where Jason comes up out of the water, reaches in the boat for the girl or guy, I forget which one, and pulls them off the boat into the water. That's the first thing I thought of, was Jason Voorhees' Crystal Lake. When you start looking at the statistics of the accidents, my God, there is so many. According to the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, there were 157 boating accidents reported on Lake Lanier in 2020 alone. The boating and drownings, just so many tragedies. No one really knows if alcohol has ever been a major player in it.
I say a lot of people, I keep seeing the excuse of alcohol. And
Did you see if they're trying to prohibit it or not?
I know that there's a Margaritaville there. It was really popular, but now they're prohibiting. I'm pretty sure they're thinking about closing it down, or they at least close down swimming where it, like a part of the Margaritaville.
I don't blame them. You're just from there. If I'm fucking drunk, let me go and just wander into the lake, which PSA, you should not be swimming when you're drinking. You shouldn't be driving a boat.
It could definitely be alcohol. That could be some, but that many? Like,
I'm sure the percentage is low. There was this one in 1999, a collision of two boats that killed 9 people. And then there was a 2012 incident where a young boy was killed by a boater under the influence of alcohol.
In 2023, there were 3 people that died within a week, all unrelated. I really pray for these families. A lot of people don't go near it, but it's also a freak accident.
I think something weird is at play, though. I don't know. Over 700 deaths. Even if you want to say or believe that there is just some type of curse there, that's what I would say. If it was anything that I had to pinpoint, it would be the town that was lost. A lot of innocent people had to die for that lake to be created, uprooted from their home. Their business is gone, their livelihood gone. As much as you don't want to say the government was responsible, they were a contributing factor to a lot of the tragedy.
And did you see that last year it was announced that one of the lake's rescue teams will no longer be using divers for underwater rescues? Instead, to decrease the risk to the divers, they're going to be using robots for underwater rescues. Not only is there a risk to anybody swimming there, there's a risk to the people that are going to help recover people. If that doesn't tell you something right there, that they're scared to even send experienced people, like that should tell you, why would you even go swimming in there? The divers aren't drunk, so what's the risk to them?
They see something down there that they don't like. I can honestly say that a curse would be the thing that could relate to the accidents and the hauntings. Those divers have probably gone down there and see things that they don't even want to talk about. I don't blame them, because I couldn't be a diver, first of all. I can't do that, have all the gear on when you're down underneath the water, because I feel like I'm claustrophobic.
If we really think about it, we could sit here and say it's somebody being drunk. But honestly, if you take a step back and look at it, it could be the Native American land from the very beginning, a sacred land that people were forced out of. Then we could say it was Oscarville, which many people lost their lives and homes to a tragic way. Many people have mysteriously died there in weird ways, drownings or alcohol fuel. We could also say it was the Lady of the Lake 8. Susie Roberts and Delilah Mae Parker Young drowned in the lake. They were on the bridge, which was newly built. Susie was wearing a blue dress. She'd lost control of the car, and people report of seeing a lost woman in a blue dress who is missing her hands. A year later, a body was found wearing a blue dress and missing her hands. They discovered that it was Susie. Later on, we're looking for Delilah Mae Parker, and they were able to find her body was still in there. There's a bunch of weird things that you could say is the cause of it.
I remember a couple years ago, that reminds me of some story that I did hear about 2 women that were together, went off the bridge. The only way that they were identified by a car, and they found jewelry on them. It might be a different story, but I don't think there's too many stories of 2 women that drive off the road. Some other ghost stories, there are children's sightings around Lake Lanier. These spirits are the souls of children who drowned in the lake over the years. Visitors have reported hearing laughter, seeing small figures running along the water's edge. People feel strange occurrences, temperature fluctuations, sounds, talking, whispering. I wish I could go there to do an investigation.
I saw someone's comment under a video that said they always see a raft in the middle of the lake in the middle of the night, and then it disappears off into the distance. They said they've seen it multiple times. They said they hear church bells coming from under the water. They hear them ringing constantly.
A lot of those churches were burnt down to get the Black community out of there. That's pretty freaky. And you do hear different stories across the world. The divers that go down to Pearl Harbor, go underneath there, they can still hear machine running and hear taps, like the guys are still banging on the ships to get out.
It's scary when something so tragic happens there, that spirit can remain trapped in that place and for a very long time be happening under that lake, because that's a whole town completely covered up. I saw multiple people saying they saw the Lady of the Lake.
I don't think there's many bodies of water that can carry a history of a town being formed, people living in it, making their lives, making their families, their homes, and then it just being flooded. That's just horrible.
It's such a huge tourist attraction. All these people are saying they hear all these things, see all these things. And to top it off, they have the facts with it, is that so many people are losing their lives there every year. This is something that is not being shut down. Why? Obviously, there's the money aspect to it. You had told me before, Tamika Foster, Usher's ex-wife, lost her 6-year-old son there, and she is rallying for it to be drained, dug up, and rebuilt. Why won't they do that? If something brings in $1 billion each year, you could easily afford to do that. Even the accidents involving the trees that are under there, we need maintenance on this, but they do not want to dig up that path. I believe the mom that said she saw something drag her son underwater. It's such a sad history underneath it.
You have a really good point. Why wouldn't you make the safety for your patrons? What do you think brings those people there, knowing all the tragic history, or even if they don't know about Oscarville?
I've seen conflicting things. Do people not do their research before they go swimming somewhere? I see Georgia natives that say they've grown up on that. That's where they learned to swim. They're saying this is all just fairy tale myths and whatnot.
I would like to see a medium, a real medium, go out there and do a reading and see what they feel. So as we draw the curtain on this fascinating journey through time, it's clear that Lake Lanier is more than just a body of water. It's a reservoir of history, legends, mysteries that continue to captivate the imagination. From its creation in the 1950s to the countless tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena, Lake Lanier is a testament to the enduring allure of the unknown.
We've delved into its murky waters, explored its haunted islands, and navigated its treacherous waters. We've heard tales of ghostly apparitions, mysterious disappearances, and eerie underwater towns.
We've learned about the lake's tumultuous past and its impact on surrounding communities, and through it all, we've discovered a world teeming with intrigue and mystery. But as with any good story, the more we uncover, the more questions we're left with. What other secrets does Lake Lanier hold? Are there more ghostly tales waiting to be told? And what about those who claim to have seen strange creatures lurking in its depths? These are questions that may never be fully answered, but they certainly add to the mystique of this enigmatic body of water. As we bid farewell to Lake Lanier for now, let's remember it's not just for its beauty or recreational value, but it's for its rich tapestry of history and legends. Let's remember it as a place where fact meets fiction, where reality blurs with myth, and where every ripple on the surface hints at a deeper story waiting to be told.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Conversation Cabin podcast. Your curiosity and enthusiasm fuel our exploration into these captivating topics. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the history and legends of Lake Lanier as much as we have.
Make sure to tune in next Thursday when we cover the Illuminati. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Conversation Cabin podcast. We hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Remember, sharing is caring. By sharing our show with your friends, family, and on social networks, you're not only spreading the joy of great content, but also supporting your favorite podcast. It's a simple and free way to help us grow our listener base and reach even more people with our conversations. If you have a scary experience or encounter that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at theconversationcabin@gmail.com. For everything Cabin Crew, visit our link tree. You can find it in our show notes. If you want to take your support to the next level and become an official member of the Cabin Crew, consider visiting our Patreon page. For a limited time, we're offering one tier for just $4.99. And this tier grants you access to bonus episodes, live shows, VIP sessions, merch, Patreon shoutouts, and more. Additional tiers will be coming soon as we prepare to launch Podapalooza, a special monthly treat featuring roundtable discussions on hot topics with fellow podcasters. To stay up to date with new episodes, make sure to follow the show. Also, add us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter X. And one last thing, please make sure you leave a rating or review. Until next time, Cabin Crew, explore your strange. Hey there, Cabin Crew, curious minds, and adventure enthusiasts. You've tuned into a brand new episode of the Conversation Cabin podcast, where we roll up our sleeves and dive headfirst into tales that send shivers down our spines. I'm your fearless host, Farah, and tonight we're stepping into the intriguing world of the Truckee River House. Nestled in whispers of local lore lies this seemingly ordinary yet suspiciously infamous property. The buzz around town hints at a tragic event, an apparent chilling murder-suicide that claimed 5 lives. Join me as we wander through the halls of this historic house, separating truth from fiction. But hold on to your hats, folks. The plot thickens with rumors of mysterious skinwalkers roaming the neighboring lands. Are these legends spun from the fabric of imagination or a reality too unsettling to comprehend? We're here to sift through the stories and uncover the truth. As I always like to do, I lay out all the information that I find, and you make your own opinion. So grab your favorite beverage, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share this episode. Let's keep the conversation going, shall we? Whispers in the night, unraveling the haunted secrets of the Truckee River House starts now.
Loftus, a family says something crashed into their backyard, prompting them to call 911, saying they saw creatures
The beast of Ray Road.
Jeffrey Gunn.
And tomorrow, a man named Ted Bundy was going to die in Florida's electric chair.
They do exist, but they don't exist. They keep telling us they don't exist, but they block every opportunity.
If I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing. Heard of the Mothman?
Did you kill your mother?
Yeah. Let's
Proof Bigfoot exists.
If we got out of here, a lot of people would start again. Who you guys have been informed? I haven't killed anyone. No.
About this 28 girls hospitalized after playing with Ouija boards at their school in Colombia.
The Conversation Cabin podcast. Okay, hey, Cabin Crew. So first, before we start tonight's episode, I added this little tidbit during the editing process. Let me just give you all a rundown of what is going on in my life, because I do not want you to think that I have become intentionally inconsistent in dropping these episodes. First of all, after I moved to our new place, because Jake had started school at the beginning of September, this is an aircraft mechanic course that he's taking. So let me just give you two words that entails: physics and the hardest math you can imagine. Also, if he fails one test, he's out of the program, which you can't blame the program because, of course, you don't want someone who fails a test to be working on the airplane that you are flying in, correct? All right. I have had to, for the past month, literally study with Jake almost every single night, at the least every other night, for a few hours. He has packets that he goes over, and I have to go through the packets and ask him the question, and he gives the answer, and we go through it like 4 or 5 times until it's ready for bed. And I have to go to bed at a decent time because I get up in the morning and go to work. So I work full time. I'm helping my husband get through school, and I'm trying to do a podcast at the same time. And then when I do finally get time to record, then I'm having unfortunate editing issues. So I have a program named Descript. It's a great program, but it's also a new program. They're working out kinks still. So I went to another program, Podcastle. Same thing. It's a new editing software. They're working out kinks. Things happen. What I have decided to do, because I do not like not being consistent with dropping episodes, is I'm going, just for now, I'm going to change to 1 episode every 2 weeks, because that way, at least you will get those 1 episode every 2 weeks on time. Once we get a better handle on Jake's schedule, goodness, in 1 month, he had 8 exams. It's just insane. So I apologize deeply. I do have a great show when I have these episodes done, and they're done well. They're done amazing. I'm so proud of them. I work so hard. You have no idea how much money that I spend monthly in the 2 different programs, into all of the different apps that I use to make video advertising, just everything. I spend between $150 and $200 a month alone just on the 2 programs and apps that I use to bring this whole podcast together. My deepest apologies to all of you, cabin crew. This is something that I have wanted to do as ever, but life happens. And as upset and sad and angry that I can get sometimes at this, I can't be upset, sad, and angry that Jake is going to school to better our future. I can't do that. Although, yes, I still sit in my office and I cry because I have no time to do what I love to do. If you can bear with me for the next few months while I'm trying to get a handle on this new life that we have for 20 months, I would really appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, I would really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into the episode. I don't know if any of you have heard of the Truckee River Murder House. If you haven't, I would suggest going to YouTube and typing up The Haunted Side. There is an investigator on there, a paranormal investigator named Patrick McCreary, who has been out there several times. It's one of his favorite places to go because of all the strange activity that he gets there. I do know that Twin Paranormal has been out there as well doing investigation. I invite you to go and watch episodes, some paranormal investigation episodes on the Truckee River Murder House, because you will see what I'm talking about in this episode. Let me give you a little rundown of where this house is. So, Truckee, California. It's an incorporated town in Nevada County. According to the 2010 U.S. Census, it had a population of 16,180, making it the 316th most populous town in California and the 2,114th most populous in the United States. Woo, those are some numbers. The town is located along Interstate 80 and is known for its proximity to Lake Tahoe and the Truckee River. It has a continental climate with dry summers and snowy winters, receiving an average of 206.6 inches of snow annually. Truckee has a rich history, including being a resting point for Native American tribes, and get this, the location of the infamous Donner Party tragedy. Now, if you do not know the Donner Party tragedy, first of all, know that I will be covering this story, but to give a little summary, if you are not familiar with it, this tragedy, it's a story of survival, desperation, and sadly, tragedy during the westward expansion of the United States in the 19th century. So here's the deal. Back in 1846, a group of around 90 pioneers known as the Donner Party, named after two brothers, George and Jacob Donner, set out from Illinois to make a new life in California. They were lured by the promise of prosperity and fertile farmland and decided to take a new route called the Hastings Cutoff, which was supposed to be a shortcut. This turned out to be a serious mistake. The route was far more difficult than they expected, leading to delays and depletion of their supplies. By the time winter set in, the Donner Party was in the Sierra Nevada mountains, far from their destination. They were trapped by heavy snowfall with limited supplies and shelter. In the harsh conditions, the group was unable to proceed or retreat, and their situation quickly became dire. As their food ran out and rescue seemed unlikely, this is crazy. Some members of the party resorted to cannibalism to survive, eating those who had already died from starvation or the cold. This grim survival tactic has become one of the most infamous aspects of the Donner Party tragedy. It wasn't until February and March of 1847 that rescue parties from California were able to reach the stranded pioneers. Of the original group of around 90, only 48 survived. The Donner Party's ordeal has since become a symbol of the dangerous and harsh conditions faced by pioneers during the westward expansion. First of all, let me ask you all a question. Say you were in that type of situation. Would you resort to cannibalism? I always put an ad out that says that the episode is now live. So for this episode, I want you to leave a comment for the question, what would you do in a situation like this? Would you resort to cannibalism to survive? It's actually a very good question to ask yourself. How far would you go to survive? Now, a little description of the Truckee River house. So in its present condition, it looks like just a small A-frame one-room home. But it used to be a little bit bigger. With the years going by, a lot of it has collapsed within itself, but there's still the main entrance of the home. That's where everyone investigates. Okay, so this property was very hard to research because of the fact that it is a home that was built a long time ago. So with that being said, it doesn't have a lot of documented history because back in the day, they didn't really have ways to document history. But I'm going to let you in on the two stories that I know of. First of all, there is a story about apparently this stone cabin along the Truckee River was the site of a brutal murder in the 1940s when a family of 5 was killed by a hitchhiker. Now, from what I know of the story, adding in also the evidence that has come from paranormal investigations, there is always this child. I don't know if 100% sure it is a child or if it is a girl, as it is coming across as, but they have constantly said throat, the word throat or cut. Some tend to think that this little girl's or little child's throat was cut. Now, for any of you that don't really watch paranormal investigations, I'm going to play a short clip from one of the Haunted Sides investigations at the Truckee River Murder House for you to hear what I'm talking about. What you will hear first will be the spirit box say, "Hurt my throat." A spirit box is a radio that scans radio frequencies very fast, and spirits are said to be able to speak through the white noise. Then what you will hear is the word cut. It comes from an ovulus. An ovulus is a device that measures the EMF, which is electromagnetic frequency, and also temperature. Spirits are said to manipulate the world around them to be able to make a word through this device. And then you will hear toward the end where Jason screams Patrick's name, because this is when the apparition had flown past the doorway that was right by Jason and had knocked the camera down. And if you know anyone that has been scared, really scared, truly scared, then you know what their voice sounds like. So I'm going to play this for you now. And then, hey, you let me know what you think you hear.
If somebody came in here and hurt my throat, you hear that?
Cut.
Oh, I don't like how it said that either. Who was that? Who was that?
I will put the URL for this exact investigation so you can watch the whole thing and, of course, tell me what you think. This story, though, of the hitchhiker killing a family of 5, I just couldn't find much on it. Now, here's the weird thing. I had found a story about a family of 5, but it wasn't in the 1940s. In the LA Times, it was an apparent murder-suicide claims family of 5 in Nevada. April 8th, 1991 is when the newspaper article was written, and it was written by Henry Weinstein, not Harvey Weinstein, the sexual abuser man, but Henry Weinstein. This is a LA Times staff writer. When I was looking at this story in reference to where the Truckee River Murder House is, apparently they were found by the Truckee River itself, the Truckee Canal. A little bit about this story that I found: in a somber and heartbreaking incident, a man from Michigan grappling with unemployment and the weight of financial struggles is thought to have committed a tragic act in a remote part of northern Nevada. According to authorities, David L. Greenwood, 32, believed to be deeply affected by his dire financial situation, is suspected of taking the lives of his wife, Elizabeth, 31, and their 3 children, before turning the gun on himself with a 9mm carbine one fateful Saturday afternoon. An investigator from the Washoe County Coroner's Office revealed that it seemed David Greenwood carried out this devastating act. The children involved were Derek Owen Bird, 10 years old, and Linda Mae Bird, 8 years old, who were Elizabeth Greenwood's children from a previous marriage, as well as Stormy Lynn Greenwood, only 2 years old. That was the couple's own child. So that is what I found as far as a documented murder that took place in or around there. I also researched for the skinwalker part of it. And if you are not familiar with skinwalkers, I want you to picture this. You're out in the middle of nowhere, maybe hiking through the desert or wandering around a dense forest at night. And suddenly, you get this eerie feeling like you're being watched. That's when you hear it rustle in the bushes, howl in the distance. You start to wonder if it's just your imagination playing tricks on you, but then you remember the legends of the skinwalkers. Now, I have covered skinwalkers way back when I first started the Conversation Cabin, and I did it with my wonderful friends, the Paranormal Project. We had covered the mysteries of the Uinta Basin. Vicky from Mrs. Spooky Obsessed podcast covered skinwalkers in general. Courtney, Amanda, and I covered certain ranches that skinwalkers were said to be on. Vicky introduced us all of what a skinwalker is. If you did not hear that episode, they're creatures from Native American folklore, especially prominent in the Navajo culture. And as I just said that word Navajo, I need to stop to tell you a story real quick because I found it so funny. So I'm not going to name the name of the channel on YouTube, but there is a paranormal investigation couple. It's a guy and a girl, and they are from Canada. One time they did a paranormal investigation. They were going to an area where the Navajo tribes were said to have inhabited that area, but the guy called it the Navajo. Is it called the Navajo? Am I wrong? Is it Navajo or Navajo? But I could have swore it was Navajo. But correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic, but okay. Skinwalkers are said to be witches or medicine men who have the ability to shapeshift into animals. These shape-shifting abilities allow them to take on the form of any animal they choose, whether it's a wolf, coyote, owl, or even something more sinister. Legend has it that skinwalkers use their powers for dark and malevolent purposes. They can mimic the sounds and movements of animals to confuse and terrify their victims. Now, again, side note, when I had watched a lot of Patrick's investigations on the haunted side, there were some crazy sounds coming out from the darkness. Some tales even claim that they can possess or control the bodies of other people, using them to carry out their nefarious deeds. Encounters with skinwalkers are said to be harrowing and unsettling. People who claim to have encountered them describe feelings of dread and an overwhelming sense of evil. They're said to have glowing, piercing eyes that can see right into your soul, and their presence is often accompanied by a foul stench or an aura of darkness. And again, going back to a lot of the investigations that I had watched out there at the Truckee River Murder House, they have caught some crazy glowing eyes. Another capture from that same investigation that Patrick and Jason did was on an episode of Paranormal Caught on Camera. They had captured what looks like a hand that is reaching out from the basement and then pulling back in. It's very creepy, very scary. You look at it yourself and tell me what you think. Now, another capture that they made on this investigation was by using the SLS camera. The SLS means structured light sensor. And what this does is it's using like a Kinect from the gaming system where it will map out a body. So usually it's like a dot for the head, 2 dots, one for each shoulder, 2 dots as in one side of each hip, and the legs, so on and so forth. When there is not a person standing in front of the camera, it actually captures as if it was a person standing in front of the camera. But with your own eyes, you're seeing nothing. You're just looking at the screen and you're seeing it mapping out like a figure. So it is a very cool piece of equipment. And I'm going to play you a part in this investigation of when they start to see this come up, this figure on their SLS camera, just so you can hear. If you're not someone that watches paranormal investigations, even if you're a diehard skeptic, at least watch some where you can see the new equipment that is out there. Just because these people are using equipment, it doesn't mean that they're not still skeptical. It just means that they're trying to use things that might be able to help us understand. You tell me what it is then if it's not a spirit.
This isn't mapping anybody to. Can you hear me? So they're on right there. Okay. Can you walk over to the other side? On my shoulder. There's another one right here. That's exactly where it is. Okay, I'm gonna come to you. Now it's on the ground. Couldn't stay there.
Okay, so I will actually put the URL of that exact paranormal investigation in the show notes of this episode, so that way you can all watch it for yourselves. So skinwalkers come from tribes, and guess what? There were tons of tribes out there around the Truckee, California area. I found was the Washoe tribe. The Washoe people have a significant historical presence in the region, including areas around Lake Tahoe and, you guessed it, the Truckee River. They are native to the Great Basin area, which includes parts of Nevada, California, and Oregon. There's another one. Forgive me if I'm not saying it correctly. It's either Niesman or Niesman. The Niesman people inhabited areas of the Sierra Nevada foothills and valleys, including regions close to the Truckee area. Another tribe, the Northern Paiute tribe, historically occupied parts of Eastern California, including areas around the Sierra Nevada mountain range. And then the other one I found was the Miwok or Miwok. The Miwok people were present in various parts of Northern California, including areas in the Sierra Nevada mountain range. There you go. You have a few different Indian tribes that could definitely carry the presence of skinwalkers out there. And just knowing that a lot of their land was taken, they cursed that land to whoever had taken it. And that's what the skinwalkers are there to do, is disrupt. If anyone has had an experience at the Truckee River Murder House, please contact me. Either message me on Instagram or email me at theconversationcabin@gmail.com. I'd love to hear more stories of this place on what people have found out there. Share your evidence with me. I'll share it with everyone else. I'm very excited to do that. That closes this episode of the Conversation Cabin podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. So when you're done listening, I would greatly appreciate it if you could leave a rating or review. Your feedback helps us reach new listeners and continue to produce quality content for you. Don't forget, sharing is caring. Sharing our podcast and episodes with your friends, family, and fellow enthusiasts is the best way to show your support. So feel free to spread the word and let others join in on the conversation. You can find us on all major streaming platforms, so be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. I want to take a sec to say thank you for your support. Each episode of the Conversation Cabin podcast takes a lot of research, writing, and your involvement really means a lot. Remember, if you have a spine-chilling experience or encounter of your own that you'd like to share on the show, I'd love to hear from you. Email us at theconversationcabin@gmail.com, and who knows, your story might make its way into a future episode. Stay connected with us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn at The Conversation Cabin, and also Twitter X at Explore Your Strange with a UR for your. I've opened my Patreon page, so I will add the link to the show notes. I have 2 tiers for your budget convenience. By joining our Patreon, you get a variety of amazing benefits, exclusive bonus material that I'll be putting out, and a chance to win free merchandise, the opportunity to co-host an episode with me, newsletters, and even VIP live sessions and more. Let's grow the show and expand the Cabin Crew. The official Cabin Crew merch store is open for business. I'll add the link to the show notes as well. We have some great designs and more coming as I try to balance work, studying with Jake, and everything that comes with podcasting. But stay tuned for our next episode. It will be more of a full episode. I'll be covering the infamous H.H. Holmes, and it will be featuring a special guest. So until next time, Cabin Crew, explore